Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings from Singapore. My name is Rena, and I'm very sorry that I am not able to join you in Bali. I would have loved to be there with everyone, but I'm sorry it was not possible. So let me start first by thanking the hosts of this international seminar on global geospatial information management for your very kind invitation for me to share my thoughts with you, even though I could not be there in person. In particular, my thanks go to Badan Informasi Geospatial Indonesia, or the Geospatial Information Agency of Indonesia, Pusat Hydrografi dan Oceanografi Angkatan Laut Indonesia, or the Indonesian Navy Hydrography and Oceanography Center, the United Nations and its Secretariat for the Committee of Experts on Global Geospatial Information Management. I understand they are supported by the International Hydrographic Organization, or IHO, and Open Geospatial Consortium, as well as representatives of member states, regional organizations, and stakeholder groups. All views expressed are my own. When I first started to think about what I wanted to say, I realized that the seminar would be held on 4th March. And exactly 1 year ago today, a group of us were at the UN headquarters in New York, about to embark on what would turn out to be a marathon 36 non-stop day and night of negotiations. At the end of this final day a year ago, we emerged with the final text of what you today know as the BBNJ Agreement, or to give it its full title, the Agreement under UNCLOS on the Conservation and Sustainable Use of Marine Biological Diversity of Areas Beyond National Jurisdiction. Today, 1 year from the conclusion of final negotiations on the BBNJ agreement, and 6 months since the agreement was open for signature by states, I'm very happy to report that we are off to a good start with 87 signatures and 2 ratifications already. And the focus now has therefore moved from negotiations to implementation, meaning to say we are moving from what to do to how to do. And this is where you, as geospatial experts, come in. The general objective of the BBNJ agreement is the conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction. It has 4 main sections on marine genetic resources, including the fair and equitable sharing of benefits, measures such as area-based management tools, including marine protected areas, environmental impact assessments, and capacity building and the transfer of marine technology. From my perspective, marine geospatial data and information is relevant in the implementation of all areas of the BBNJ agreement. Time does not permit me to go into detail on where and how marine geospatial data and information can contribute to the implementation of the BBNJ agreement. But let me give you a couple of examples. First, a very straightforward example under Article 12 of the BBNJ agreement. This provision provides that when marine genetic resources are collected in situ, parties are required to notify the BBNJ clearinghouse mechanism of information, including, and I quote, a report detailing the geographical area from which marine genetic resources were collected, including information on the latitude, longitude, and depth of collection. To give another example, when parties propose the establishment of area-based management tools, which may include marine protected areas, under Article 19 of the BBNJ agreement, they are required to include a geographic or spatial description of the area that is the subject of the proposal, referencing indicative criteria set out in the agreement, such as rarity, fragility, and representativeness. And while there is no explicit provision, capability and capacity to access and utilize marine geospatial data and information would also be relevant in the implementation of the BBNJ agreement. As such, it is important to have common interoperable standards for such marine geospatial data and information that supports the implementation of the BBNJ agreement. Such data and information standards, in my layman's view, allow for comparability of research data, information, and outputs emanating from a variety of sources. In turn, such comparison allows for the development of cleaner, more robust, more comprehensive data on the state of the oceans, both across space and time. For example, in terms of assessing species abundantness and representativeness. The time dimension is important because, among other things, it helps us to identify which are the vulnerable species and the degree of species degradation. The space dimension is also relevant. The areas beyond national jurisdiction are so vast that the ability to harness marine geospatial data and information for accurate assessments becomes important. As well, the oceans, whether we are speaking about the different species in the ocean or the climate of the ocean areas, or even the geology of the oceans, do not recognize the boundary between the exclusive economic zones and the high seas, or between the continental shelf and the deep seabed or the area. So in this respect, your theme for the seminar, From Shores to High Seas, is so very apt. In preparing for this address, I came across the concept of Marine Spatial Data Infrastructure, or MSDI, in an IHO paper. And I understand that the IHO has a Marine Standards and Data Infrastructure Working Group. I should caveat that I do not know how widespread the adoption of this concept is, but I did note that one pillar of the MSDI is technical standards. The development of standards for marine geospatial data and information that can support the implementation of the BBNJ agreement is very important in achieving the objective of conservation and sustainable use. To get to such standards, cooperation and leadership are critical. It's not helpful if different groups are promulgating a variety of standards. So I was very pleased to learn that following today's seminar, there will be joint meetings of the United Nations Working Group on Marine Geospatial Information, IHO's Marine Spatial Data Infrastructure Working Group, and the Open Geospatial Consortium Marine Domain Working Group. I'm told that there is a coordinated agenda for these joint meetings, and I hope that you can collectively lead the effort and show the way forward. The reason I am pleased is that one of the driving forces behind the BBNJ effort, why we embarked on the negotiations in the first place, was the need for greater coherence, coordination, and cooperation at the global level among the different global, sectoral, and regional bodies involved in global governance, in ocean governance. There is a specific provision in the BBNJ agreement on international cooperation. And throughout the BBNJ agreement, you will find references to the BBNJ institutions, such as the COP and the scientific and technical body working with relevant bodies. So the leadership that you are showing in holding such joint meetings is cause for optimism. And I hope that others can learn from your example of leadership in cooperation. Your discussions today on marine geospatial information and ocean governance, advancing conservation and sustainable use, as well as on partnerships and innovations, can help to advance work on the implementation of the BBNJ agreement. I therefore wish you all thought-provoking and fruitful discussions that will take our collective work in ocean governance forwards. Thank you very much.